Welcome to the Rocky Garza Show, where we explore the collision of a deeply meaningful life and a wildly impactful career. I'm your host, Rocky Garza, and with over a decade of experience as a coach, consultant, and keynote speaker to many Fortune 500 companies, I'm here to share personal stories and expert advice to help you gain clarity, build confidence, and discover that you too can build the life you actually want. Whether you're a high achiever looking for a more full life or a leader striving for professional success with purpose, this podcast was designed with you in mind. If you've ever believed that being more disciplined is the key to success, what if I told you that was only half the story? I think for so long we've been taught that discipline is everything. That if you'll just work harder, you'll grind longer, stay more focused, never take your eye off the prize, then you'll never fail. But here's the problem. Too much discipline can lead to rigidity, missed opportunities, and the amount of times I see it leading to burnout. What if I told you that flexibility is just as important as discipline? Maybe even more important at times. See, for years, I believed that if I just stayed disciplined enough, that I would never fail. If I could just stay in it, if I could just grind harder, if I could put in a few more hours, if I could get up earlier, if I could stay up later. And I think the reason this is the case is because so often is that we find the word discipline. And I want to be clear, I'm a huge fan of discipline. However, I find that again and again and again, discipline is made synonymous with grinding. It's made synonymous with sacrifice. It's made synonymous with doing all the things you don't like and none of the things that you do. And so if you don't define it that way, or it hasn't presented itself that way in your life, then maybe today is not for you. But I think for so many of us, we find in our lives that we tend to lose the ability to really identify what we want. And so we spend so much of our time being busy and we're not actually making progress that we over and over and over then say, I have to get more discipline. I have to get more discipline. And I think what I find is that just tends to be us saying that I have to do more of the things that I don't really want to do. But over time, what I've realized is that some of my biggest breakthroughs didn't come necessarily from just grinding harder. They came from really being adaptable, really being willing to change course, or a phrase that my coach always uses with me, came from the ability to create iterative changes all along the way. And so today I want to talk to you about what does it look like to hold the tension between discipline and flexibility? Because I think if we can find this space where they can both exist at the same time, well, as usual, it might just change your life. See, I think about this in my own life. I've been on the pursuit of health and wellness, and I think many of you listening are probably somewhat similar to me. We've been on this journey, and we want to get it right, and we want to make sure that we're healthy, and we want to be active with our kids, and so on and so forth. And so I think what happens is we tend to go to, let's just say by default, we go to the beginning of the year. At the beginning of the year, we say, okay, I'm going to set these goals, or maybe some of us get crazy. We don't start our fitness journey until Q2 or Q3. And we say, okay, here's what I do. Our goals is I want to get healthier. Then we say, all right, what I need to do is I need to make sure I'm going to wake up at 5:30. I got to go get all of my steps in. I got to make sure I count my macros. I got to make sure that I'm getting enough protein and enough water. I got to get my electrolytes. And I take my daily vitamin. What about my omega-3? Did I get my D3, K2? And I want to be clear, all of those in and of themselves, love them, like having them. I participate with and take most of them, okay? Please don't hear what I'm not saying. However, I think what happens is we get in this mentality where I get in this mentality where I say, okay, I got to stack all these things together. And what happens is I do it for a week, or maybe I do it for 2 weeks. If I get wild, I do it for 3 weeks. Studies say typically with New Year's resolutions that 84% of people stop the things they were doing by January 21st. So about 3 weeks is the time frame most of us have in us. And we usually stop because we create this level of discipline, this level of rigidity that we I got to do it just like this. And we go from nothing to something intense. And then we wonder why 21 days later, we can't keep ourselves together. See, I think what I'm learning when it comes to the tension between discipline and flexibility is really that in the space of those two things, if we can begin to see that life is lived in the continue, not in the restart, I think many of us could find that we would allow ourselves to actually create a lot more discipline in our life than we think. See, in those moments where there's this relentless pursuit of structure, this relentless pursuit of rigidity, to do it just like this, because someone told me I should do it just like this. And I read 5 a.m. Club and they said to do it just like this. And when I read Atomic Habits, James Clear said to do it just like this. Shout out to James Clear because I think it's an incredible book. What I love about Atomic Habits, though, is it doesn't talk about the discipline and the rigidity. It talks about the reality of your systems. See, when we have systems in our life that allow us to keep us on track, to keep us on the path, what happens then is it allows us to live life in the continue. See, for myself, I have this goal this year. I'm trying something different. For health, wellness, and fitness, what I'm trying is I lifted bench press, deadlift, and squat at the beginning of this year. I took my 1 rep max. At the time, I hadn't lifted very consistently for a while, so the numbers were low. I said, what I want to do by the end of 2025, I said, my fitness journey is going to take me 12 months this year. What I want to do is at the end of this year, I want to be able to bench press 225. I want to be able to squat 315, and I want to be able to deadlift 405 pounds. And so I began to think about how do I arrive at that place 12 months from today? And where I landed was, I think if I can create a workout regimen that's on average between 3 and 4 times a week, I can lift weights 3 to 4 times a week, knowing what my starting number was and what I want my ending number to be. I broke that down and said, where do I need to be every 30 days in order, if I did a 1 rep max every 30 days, what number would I need to be at to be on track to hit those numbers? And I said, what that means for me is if I shoot for 4 times a week, that means I need to lift weights 208 times in 2025. 208 times. So every time I lift weights, I'm going to mark a little X on my chart and say, how many into 208 am I? I know the workout I'm going to do. I know the numbers I got to be at, and I got to do it 208 times. Now, for those of you that are doing the math, there's 365 days in a year. So if we just take, let me get my calculator right here. If we take 365 and we subtract 208, that means there's 157 days this year that I won't lift weights. That means I have 150 days this year that there is life to be lived in the continue. 157 days where there's life to be lived in the continue. See, what I mean by that is that we can impose a level of discipline to make sure we stay on the path of where we want to go. But I am telling you, where we lose the flexibility, where we lose the opportunity, where we're only getting half the picture, is when we create the level of rigidity that prevents us from being available for life. See, there are days when the kids just want to go grab an ice cream, or there are days in which we're just easier to grab Chipotle. There are days in which we're going to make a fresh dessert at home. There are days that we are going to, and I know I'm using food examples, there are days, if we look at our life as far as our professional thing goes, there are days that the calls just don't get made. It wasn't for lack of effort. It wasn't like for trying. It was just that life that day. And I think what happens so often is we beat ourselves up because we go, I've been on a streak. I've been doing $50 a day every day. We get on a streak and we say, I've been giving coaching and feedback consistently. I've been having my one-on-ones every week. I've been doing my L10s or my D10s consistently, and I missed one. And so I guess the business is going to fall apart. We do date night every Tuesday, but this Tuesday we had a special thing because we had a baseball practice, and we didn't get on Wednesday because the kids went to church and they went to Wednesday Night Live. And so when we came back, we didn't make it this week. And so I guess that means we have a terrible marriage. Now, I know when you hear me say it that way, I know you're thinking, Rocky, that's ridiculous. Except I talk to hundreds, if not thousands of people on a regular basis, and I know that is how our brain is working. That is what we're doing to ourselves. And so when we lack this streak mentality, when we lack this sort of over-rigid, this over-disciplined idea, and we forget that life is meant to be lived in the continue and not simply in the restart, I find what happens is most individuals' pendulums swing back the other way, and they stop doing all the things that they actually want. They stop doing all the things that they love because we tend to have this all or nothing mentality. Friend, I'm just asking you to consider, what would it look like if you live life in the continue? I'm not asking you to give up on your goals. I'm not asking you to work less. I'm not asking you to don't work as hard. I'm not asking you to just do whatever you want in the sense of that it doesn't really matter. I'm saying, no, if it really does matter, then allow yourself to be a human being. You can shift mid-project. You can shift focus. You can make an iterative change. You can start a program in your business and only to realize that's not the program you actually want, and then you can change. You can adapt. You can grow. It can be different. Listen to me. Discipline matters, but flexibility is what keeps you from breaking. Discipline matters, but flexibility is what allows you to live life in the continue. The key to your success is not always just more discipline. It's knowing when to double down and when to pivot. I'd encourage you to ask yourself, wherever you are right now, whatever plan you have, whatever it is that you're doing, am I holding on to this plan because it's the very best option, or am I holding on this plan simply because I'm afraid to let go? In the relationships that you're in, both personally and professionally, are you holding on because you're afraid nothing else will come? Or do you realize that now is a time for a change? Is this the moment to push, or is this the moment to pause? So this week, when you're faced with a decision, ask yourself, what's one way I could approach this differently? It doesn't mean you're going to, and it doesn't mean you have to. But what would it look like if you did? Discipline alone will not create success. Your ability to stay flexible, your ability to double down when necessary, pivot when it is necessary, to create iterative change, to be aware of your client, of your market, of your business, of your staff, most importantly, friend, to be aware of yourself. So this week, yourself. Build systems that leave room for adaptability. Build systems that leave room for flexibility. And remember, no matter where you go or what it is that you're doing, lead well and be known. Trust yourself. Lead like you, not like them. And we'll see you soon.